Senator Sanders, thanks so much for doing this, for sitting down.
My pleasure.
So, Saturday Night Live, these impressions, whether Will Ferrell during Bush or Tina Fey during Palin, they can actually make an impression among the populace. Before this election season ever began, did you ever look at Larry David and think, that guy could play me someday?
No, I admired him. I loved his television show. But no, I did not make the connection between Larry David and myself.
But now it makes perfect sense, I suppose?
Well, he plays me a little bit better than I play me, so yeah, it does.
You're favored to win the New Hampshire primary.
Don't make me nervous and don't jinx me.
I won't jinx it. I'm sorry.
We think it's going to be a close election. We're working really hard.
So the Clinton campaign is kind of trying to downplay it a little bit. Yeah. Secretary Clinton the other day pointed out that you're from neighboring Vermont, and New Hampshire voters often vote for people from neighboring states. She says it's the neighborly thing to do. Your campaign said that was an insult. Is it an insult?
Well, in this sense, it is. Look, I mean, obviously, Vermont and New Hampshire are separated by a river. We are close states. But you know what? Secretary Clinton won this state in 2008. Her husband ran several campaigns in this state. When we began this campaign here in New Hampshire, we were 30 points down in the polls, and she was much better known in this state than I was. So simply to say, you know, if we win this thing, it's because Bernie lives in Vermont, yeah, I'm just not accurate.
There was an issue that came out in the last week about Secretary Clinton pushing back on your suggestions that maybe her votes have been compromised, or she's been compromised.
Didn't say that.
Well, how would you phrase it?
All I said is what is a fact. And if the Clinton campaign wants to contradict this fact, I'd like to hear it. What I said is that she has a super PAC, and she recently, according to her reports, received $15 million from Wall Street. End of discussion. I never said anything more.
Now, her response has been, among other things, to say, nobody can point to a vote that I've ever changed because of this. And your campaign just put out a section from a book by Elizabeth Warren, a 2003 book, in which she noted, Elizabeth Warren, that Hillary Clinton as First Lady had opposed a bankruptcy bill in 1998-99, and then as a senator, she voted for the bill. Elizabeth Warren wrote, I'm just quoting Elizabeth Warren, the bill was essentially the same, but Hillary Rodham Clinton was not. And Warren basically charges that because Hillary Clinton had taken $140,000 from banks, she did change her vote. Now, that's Warren saying it, not you.
Right.
But do you think that's an example of Clinton changing her vote?
This is what I think. I think you have a corrupt campaign finance system. I think you have the Koch brothers, billionaires, ExxonMobil, you have Wall Street, you have pharmaceutical companies pouring huge amounts of money into our political process, undermining American democracy. And it's not an accident that we end up paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. It's not an accident that there's not one Republican candidate who is prepared to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and help transform our energy system to deal with climate change. So I'm not going to go around saying, well, she got this, she did that. That is not my point. I do not have a super PAC, Jake. Okay, I don't want a super PAC. I don't want their money. We are raising money the old-fashioned way for middle class and working families, 3.5 million individual contributions.
So if the suggestion, and let's not make it Clinton specific because I know you're reluctant to do that, but if the suggestion is not that individuals, let's say Democrats, are changing their votes because of campaign contributions, is the suggestion that as legislation is being drafted, people just won't go as far as they normally would because of the money?
Here's what the suggestion is. You tell me, why is it that we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? Do you think it has something to do with the fact that the pharmaceutical industry has 1,300 paid lobbyists and contributes a whole lot of campaign contributions?
Absolutely I do.
Okay, so, and why is it that Wall Street today has 3 out of the 4 largest banks that are bigger today than they were when we bailed them out because they're too big to fail? But Neff, what you're trying to do here is to say the campaign contributions, you know, resulted in somebody voting this or that way. That is not what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, is it a more nuanced thing where people along the way, as they're drafting legislation...
It ain't nuanced. Big money controls what goes on in Washington. Every American understands that. You have to be very naive not to believe that the wealthiest and most powerful institutions in this country are contributing huge amounts of money. For what reason? For the heck of it? They just want to have fun and contribute that money? Of course they expect something. But that is different than saying, oh, this candidate took that amount of money and voted that way. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you have a corrupt campaign finance system. I will do everything I can to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And in fact, I believe we should have public funding of elections.
Okay. But your campaign did send out this excerpt from Elizabeth Warren, and she directly said that Clinton, in her view, changed her vote.
That's Elizabeth's point. I think the point that we wanted to know, I suspect the point that the campaign tried to make was to identify a particular vote that Secretary Clinton cast. And by the way, they're sending out 10 things a day attacking me. I should, just to set the record straight on that.
Hillary Clinton, so far, has been asked by journalists to release the transcripts from speeches, especially those to Goldman Sachs and others. Do you think she should, and what do you think would be revealed in those transcripts?
No idea. I have no idea what she said, and I think the decision as to whether or not to release it is her decision.
You don't have a position on it at all? Let's turn to immigration, which came up during the debate. Secretary Clinton brought up your vote against Ted Kennedy's efforts in 2007 in his immigration bill. You spoke about that bill on the Lou Dobbs show.
If poverty is increasing and if wages are going down, I don't know why we need millions of people to be coming into this country as guest workers who will work for lower wages than American workers and drive wages down even lower than they are right now.
It seems to be that you're suggesting in that 2007 quote that you saw immigration reform, and specifically the guest worker program in that bill, as something that was going to bring down wages for Americans. You are now a proponent of immigration reform, or you've always been in it, but are you opposed? Are you still opposed to that guest worker program idea?
The answer is that if you study the issue, you will find that major organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center described guest worker programs as virtual slavery, where people, you're a guest worker, you work for me, and I exploit you, I pay you lower wages, treat you terribly, you stand up, you're out of this country. And that's why major Latino organizations and immigration reform groups like LULAC also recommended a no vote, and why other progressives in Congress voted against it as well. So I have very serious problems and worked hard to improve the guest worker program. But when you have major organizations describing the guest worker program as virtual slavery, there's a good reason to vote against it.
The first two contests, Iowa and New Hampshire, seem to be the ones that were most friendly to you, in the sense that many progressives in Iowa, many progressives and independents in New Hampshire, very white states, and Hillary Clinton, at least now, polls better with Latinos and African Americans. What is the path to victory for you, even if you have a resounding victory here on Tuesday night?
Well, we started this entire campaign way back when, 9 months ago, at 3-4% in the polls. We have come a very long way. I think the message that we have and the agenda that we have in terms of economics and criminal justice will resound very significantly in the African American community and the Latino community. Just yesterday, for example, Ben Jealous. Ben is the former leader of the NAACP, one of the more dynamic civil rights leaders in this country, came on board our campaign, as well as a number of other African American leaders. So I think when we get to South Carolina, when we get to Nevada, you're going to see more and more response from the African American community, because we're talking about the issues relevant to them. Raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, making public colleges and universities tuition free, dealing with the fact that we have more people in jail than any other country, primarily Latino and African American. I think we have the program that when people hear it, they'll say, yeah, you know what, Bernie is making sense.
Do you think you can win South Carolina?
I think we are the underdog now. I think we have seen some real momentum there. I think we got a shot at it.
David Brock, who is...
I know who David Brock is.
Often referred to as an attack dog for the Clintons.
Yeah.
And he works for the super PAC that directly coordinates with the campaign.
Right.
He said after you released your Iowa ad, the Simon & Garfunkel ad, and he said there weren't enough African Americans and Latino faces in it. And he said, based on this ad, black lives don't matter to Bernie Sanders. What did you make of that, and what do you make of the role that David Brock plays in the Clinton campaign?
Well, let's remember who David Brock is. He is a political attack dog. And I happen to like Hillary Clinton. But I am astounded by some of the people that she has hired, including David Brock. David Brock, people will remember, used to be a real right-wing guy who was attacking people like Anita Hill. This is an African-American law professor who tried to do the right thing, and he admitted. He said, I lied about her. This is the guy that Hillary Clinton is making the head of her super PAC. I just don't understand, I just don't understand where the Clinton people are coming from, hiring somebody like that. Every day, they're attacking us in one way or the other.
Have you heard about this phenomenon, Bernie bros, people who support you and sometimes attack in very crude and sexist ways?
I have heard about it.
Clinton
It's disgusting.
supporters?
Look, we don't want that crap. We can't, and we will do everything we can, and I think we have tried. Look, that anybody who is supporting me is doing sexist things we don't want them. I don't want them. That is not what this campaign is about.
Has this experience changed you in any way?
It really has, in the sense that I perceive more than ever how far removed the Congress is, and I'm in the Senate, and the establishment media is from the reality of people's lives. It's like two separate worlds. All right, the establishment is here and they're talking about these issues, and people are over there struggling to keep their heads above water economically. Look, we did a meeting in Iowa, in a small town. Woman gets up trying to make it on $10,000 a year, and she broke down to talk about the pain, the difficulty, the embarrassment of trying to make it on $10,000 a year. Of course it moves you. And you see when you're out, I have seen literally people, Jake, I think 2 instances in Iowa where people have terminal illnesses. I think both of them are in a hospice, and literally they were saying, we want to live long enough to come out to caucus for you. Now, what do you think that does?
Thanks so much for your time. Good luck on Tuesday.
Thank you very much, Jacob.